This is such an important issue, and those of us who have spent time with any of the workers, those of us who have spent time with the small business owners who are deeply concerned about the viability of their business under a last man standing kind of rule, completely understand the level of grave concern that these Americans are experiencing as a result of the problem with multi-employer pension funds like Central States. And it's clear to me that if we fail to act, workers and retirees could and probably will see their retirement security disappear. Small businesses across the country could and probably will face bankruptcy, and taxpayers would still be left on the hook. Today we're here to tell the stories and give the voice to the workers, small businesses, and retirees who are most at risk for losing their pensions after years of hard work and playing by the rules. So today I rise to give a voice to thousands of North Dakota workers and retirees who are at risk for losing their retirement security because of the financial instability of our multi-employer pension system. The only way to prevent these workers and retirees from losing their pensions is for Congress to act. These men and women did everything right, and they lived not just in North Dakota, but in almost every state. They played by the rules, they worked for years, if not decades, often in labor-intensive jobs like coal miners or workers in the trucking industry, UPS package delivery, and grocery supply stores. And they acted responsibly when they negotiated for and they started putting money away in their pensions, taking wage reductions to guarantee that their family would have a future. I also want to point out that about half of the people, when I ask them how many of the pensioners who come to my meetings, I ask those who have served their country by putting on a uniform to stand up. And usually it's about a third to a half of the room. So let's not forget, these are veterans that returned home. They started working in their communities. They took off that uniform, continued to build our communities, and now they're struggling. They're struggling to understand how a government and how a society could be leaving them in this level of uncertainty regarding their economic future. And so I want to tell a couple stories of some of the people that I've met, but I want you to know that I just recently, as Saturday, had a meeting with over 140 workers in Fargo. They came from all over, and their stories were heartbreaking. They couldn't understand how if they did everything right in the United States of America, they would have their financial viability at risk. I had one man stand up, 80 years old, who told me he went back to work when he knew that there was going to be a problem and worked in the oil fields. He said, "I'm worn out. There's nothing more I can do." So I want to talk about Donna Madsen and her husband Mike, who worked as a UPS driver for 30 years in Fargo, a job that had an impact on his time with his family and his health. In 2013, he was diagnosed with a progressive subneural palsy, a degenerative disease that requires regular and expensive speech, physical, and occupational therapies. That pension that he put money into was supposed to be there to support his family after Mike's decades of labor. Now when he needs it most, and when his wife Donna needs it most, that pension could be ripped away. Tina Kramer from Mandan was a member of the Teamsters, working as a secretary for the local union for 25 years, through which she earned a pension. Her husband was a member of the Steelworkers and worked for Bobcat for about 30 years as a forklift driver, and he earned a pension. Several years ago, both of them retired. Soon after, Tina's husband suddenly passed away. Tina lost her husband's pension and now relies solely on her pension. Tina has just a little bit of savings, and she's already had to dip into that each month to pay her bills for groceries and property tax. Should the Central States Fund go bankrupt, it is only going to get worse. Mark Rothenschiller from Bismarck gave up a lot to work many long hours as a UPS driver for 27 years. And when we say gave up a lot, he gave up going to his kids' plays, sports games, because he often worked late. Because of the intensive labor of his work, he's had 5 back surgeries and another rotator cuff surgery, which forced him to retire early. If Congress doesn't act to fix Central State's pension fund, he doesn't know if he'll be able to pay his health care bills. Mark Lunderby from Grand Forks never thought he'd be in the position where, after 36 and a half years driving a semi, putting in 14-hour days with extensive stretches away from home, he no longer may have his retirement savings. But that's the reality. He followed the rules, paid into his pension throughout his entire career, and he tells me that if we don't move legislation to protect his pension, soon he'll have to sell his house. I would invite any of our colleagues in this body to call a meeting. Call a meeting of the people who have been affected, because I serve on the Select Committee on Pensions. And our first meeting, we had a lot of discussion about how difficult solving this problem will be. And there was a lot of talk about the math and how we could make the math work and how we could bring this fund back into solvency. And I said, that's right. We need to fix the economics of the pension fund. But we cannot ignore our moral imperative. And that moral imperative is to do the right thing, to make sure that as we're standing there, we realize that for very, very many, in fact, hundreds of thousands of citizens of our state, this is life or death. This is the difference between having dignity in retirement or being completely dependent on someone else to help them through. And this is at the time that they did nothing wrong other than plan for a pension that would work for them, other than bargain for a pension that would work for them. We cannot ignore the moral imperative. Yes, we need to fix this, and we need to fix it soon, because time is wasting. And the longer we wait, the more difficult it's going to be. And so I would invite all of our colleagues who aren't familiar with this issue to call a meeting or to come to one of our meetings and look these veterans in the face. Look these hard-working people in the face. Look at the active folks who don't know if their benefits are already going to be given and available to them. Look them in the face and say, it's simply a math problem. Your problem is a math problem. No, their problem is an American problem. It's a congressional problem. It's an administration problem, and it needs to be fixed, and we need to make a commitment to making sure that the people who have worked hard all their life, the people we talk about every day on this floor, are kept whole in moving, in securing their pensions. It is an American imperative.